Hello and welcome everybody to this new HelloID release webinar, and this time it's the April release. And in this webinar we're going to show you the new features that we have implemented in the April release, which is released on Wednesday. That was a little bit a weird day. Normally we do it on the Monday, but we had a holiday in the Netherlands, so that's the reason why we did it on Wednesday. So we're going to talk about the new features in the release. Also, I want to mention that if you want to keep updated for HelloID and see these videos and have this new information available about the new features, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and then hit the bell icon, so you will get notified when there is a new webinar or there's a new release video, or maybe a new documentation video to explain things, how it works in HelloID and what's new in HelloID. So let's get started with the new features. Oh, I also forget to mention, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section or in the live chat, and I will try to explain the question or answer the question, if it is a question or maybe a remark or a feedback item, I don't know. You can put everything in there and I will try to answer them. So for our first new features, I'm going to start with service automation. And if I'm going to the admin portal, and I'm going to delegated forms, because all the new features are available in the delegated forms. And I've created a form here, AD account create with username generation. And if I go to this form and I go to my form elements, you will see here a new element which is available, which is called text banner. And with the text banner I can add information, warning or errors or things like that to my form. To show them. So as an example here, I have what the user should do in this screen. Fill in the first name and the last name, and it's used to create a user, so that's the reason why. And I also explain, okay, please press next to continue, and in this next step a username is generated, and this could take a while or something like that. So you have the option to show more information to the end user that is using the form and help them with it. Of course, we can also use this with a data source, so you can get the information, the title and the text from a data source. So it could be dynamic, and I will always show that a little bit later on how that works. And also we have three types of banners. So one is info, the other one is warning, and the other one is danger. And you can use them. And of course also conditional visibility works, so you could say, hey, I'm going to show a danger if a certain value is there, or a certain field is inserted or is on true, or things like that. And of course I can also say I want to show this in the summary, or I just want to hide it. Let's say in this case I want to hide it. I don't want to show this in the summary, just only on the form itself. So let's go to the, let's also talk about another new feature, and that's the placeholder. So now you can fill in the placeholder and configure those on different fields, and also I think it's on the confirm password field. So the password, this one here, confirm password, you can change the placeholder text. So we have that available on certain elements. So now you have more control over what the user sees and help them enter the text. So that's really nice, I think. Let me delete this field. So this is my form. Let me save it, and let's go to the end user side, and let me show what we can do with this form. So with the service desk, and I'm going to the AD account create with username generation form, and as you can see here, I have this information block, what I can fill in, what I need to fill in, my first name and last name, just like I shown in the configure side, the admin side. So let me fill in this Rick, and let me fill in my last name, and then I go to next. And what I'm doing here is I'm loading here this banner with a data source. So what I do here is I just generated a username based on my details I just fill in, so Rick and Van den Dijssel. And what I did is I used a data source to generate a username. So I looked up in Active Directory or maybe a blacklist or something like that. And I just checked, okay, the next one available is Erpen Van den Dijssel 2. But that means that Erpen Van den Dijssel and Erpen Van den Dijssel 1 are already existing. And now I can show that in a banner, which is really nice for the Service Desk user to see that these users are already existing, and that's the reason why it is generated with a 2 or something like that. So you can also use this banner in a more dynamic form, where you just load something from your network or Active Directory or things like that. And it's also pretty easy to do. If you go back to the admin, close anyway, I don't want to save it. And I go to my delegated form here. We go to step 2 because here I generated. Here you can see I use the data source and I use the title and the message field. If I go to my data source and execute my PowerShell, I can see, okay, the received data, that is the message that you just saw and the model definition. So you can use things like this, like the data source, to load this banner with dynamic types, which makes your forms more informative and easier to fill in, and give better instructions how to fill it in, or maybe just show an error that something happens, or maybe show a message that a data source could take long to load because it's a really a lot of items in the data source, so it takes a while to load, and then you don't want to or you want to show your customers a message that, okay, please wait because it can take a while. And in some cases maybe they just leave the form, but in this case you see this information and maybe they say, okay, then I'm going to wait or something like that. So there are a multitude of usages how you can use this text banner. But one side is I think is a static version where you say, okay, this is how you fill in the form, how the form is used, or inform that an element could take a while to load. And another one is more a dynamic approach where you connect the text banner with a data source and retrieve information from a system and maybe explain why a value is generated like that, or why the users created like that, and things like that. So it's really nice to use it. And this is beside the placeholders that you can define inside your form elements. Let me check if there are any questions. No, not yet. Okay, then I will continue to provisioning. Okay, with provisioning we have two main new features. And let me show the first one. So let's go to provisioning. And let's go to the business rules. And let's create a new business rule here. And let's make a condition where this person, Groot, is part of. So let's say display name, family of name, sorry. Oh, it's a little bit slow today. Do it again. Oh, I think it was just yeah. Maybe an issue with my internet connection or something like that. So now I have a single person that I want to enforce or give some entitlements to. And let's do an entitlement with an Active Directory group. And then it should appear. Yes. Let's say Power BI, the group. And let's do a publish. And nothing special really. I'm just creating a new rule, and I'm forcing an entitlement for Power BI Pro for Adian's group growth, I think. So that's fine, and I can now just run the enforcement. And yeah, so it's added the person, so it's starting a task now. And if I go to the person, growth, Adian's growth, and I go to entitlements, yeah, it's assigned. The Power BI Pro. Now if I go back to my rule, what the hell is happening? Where is my rule? Okay, something. Let's start over again a little bit. So let's create a new rule. Its name is new rule. So let's change this time the name. I'm going to change this to root example. I'm going to my persons name, and the value is, oh sorry, I have to, it's case sensitive, so root. And I'm going to entitlements, and I'm going to not HelloID, Active Directory, and again let's say this time I will do Adobe Photoshop. Oh damn it. My mistake, sorry, there was a filter on. That's the reason why I didn't saw the new rule briefly. My mistake. It happens in a live environment. So the new rule. Here I can see the new rule. Sorry, and it's the Power BI I've added. Let me destroy the other rule because it's not enforced yet. Okay, that one. And this one is enforced. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the entitlement. So I removed the entitlement from the rule, but the entitlement was already entitled to Adian's group and enforced. So that's really important to know. So now if I publish, I don't know what's happening. It seems like somebody else is also working in this environment. But here I got a new option. Manage removed entitlements. So this means is that all the entitlements that are removed or the permissions that are removed from the rule, I can make them unmanaged instead of revoking them for all the persons. Remember, you do this for every permission that you remove from the rule at once. So you cannot say, I want this one I want to unmanage, and another one, if I have two, I want to revoke them. So then you have to make a publish 2 times, one for the unmanage and one for revoking. But here I can say unmanage. And if I publish this and I go to my evaluation again and I start an evaluate, and you can now see that an unmanaged operation starts and not a revoke. In previous versions it was always revoke. And now you also see the origin. It was removed from rule, and when it was removed from the rule, you selected the unmanaged option. So that's pretty easy, right? So, and it's really nice to do this because then you have a multitude of options where you can say, okay, I want to unmanage them or I want to revoke them. The difference between unmanage and revoke is unmanage only clears the state, so we don't do anything against the target system, so in this case Active Directory. So the app Power BI Pro will not be revoked in Active Directory, but the state that we have, that it was granted, will be removed. So we don't do anything in the target system, it's just we change the entitlements and remove the entitlement, and that's it. So it's not revoked on the target system. This has some exceptions, and of course if you have 2 rules, so I have now one rule with the Power BI Pro, but it could also be that I have 2 rules with the same entitlement, so 2 rules with Power BI Pro. And then it means if I have one rule just in scope with the person group and the other one also, but I unmanage them from one of the rules, then nothing happens because the person is still getting the entitlement from another rule. So it's not the last rule where the entitlement was assigned to for that particular person. So keep in mind that although you say a manage or a revoke, it's not always a manage or revoke because the permission could come from a different rule as well. So that's really important to know. There's also another case where you have 2 rules and you have the same permission in the rule, and you say, okay, I want to remove that permission from the first rule, and I say, okay, I want to unmanage the permission. And before I do an enforcement, I go to the second rule and I say, okay, I want to delete or revoke the permission that I removed from the rule. And my question to you guys, what do you think what happens when that situation happens in our software? And it should appear as a question in the chat. So I think you should, or you could answer that one. Oh, no. Yeah, so it's a new thing I want to try. So I'm starting a question, and maybe you can answer then what you think, what will happen. And after I explain the next feature, I will tell you the answer. So let's try to do a little bit interactive. You should see the question now. So I will give you an answer later on. That was the manage entitlements when you remove a permission from a rule option that we have. It's really powerful, of course, because you have more control over what you want to do with the entitlements when you're managing your rules. Another new feature that we have is that we have more conditions options for the custom notification events. Just a little bit of a recap. So because you need the new PowerShell v2 connector, the one that is in beta. So if you don't have this option available, this new one with the beta sign, and you want to see this and give us feedback, you can ask us, contact our support department, and ask to enable this new feature. But you still cannot use it in production for production systems because it's still a beta functionality. So there are still some things that could change that breaks the functionality, and therefore it's just only in beta just yet. But we are busy to finalize the new PowerShell connector. If you have that, it's really easy to see, because this is the only PowerShell connector where you have field mapping. This is a whole new UI. I mentioned that in the previous webinar, so I'm not going to talk about that a lot. But what's really important, that I enabled the option to use this in notifications for a couple of fields. So for department, external ID, a title, and username. And let's focus on department. And you see here I have this option enabled for the create and the update actions. So that's really important to know, because we're going to use that one in the conditions. So now, if you're aware of that, I can go to the custom events, and I can create a new custom event. So let's say this is account create when department sales or finance. What I can do here is I can choose my system. I say, okay, it's on a account create. And previously I only had the option has value, but now I have the contains and the equals. So now I can say, okay, the contains, and I can say the department has the value of sales or the value of finance. So this means is that this custom event is going to trigger on the account create action for the AVA system. But it only triggers when the department has a value of sales or finance, and it's a contain, so it's not an equals. So if the name is finance HR or something like that, I don't know, then it's also going to trigger for that account create. But I can also say, okay, this is just one rule. Let's create another one, and I want an account create. For the rest, other departments, for other departments. So let's say account create as well, and I can say here still the contains. I choose a field department, and I say sales, and I say finance. But now I'm going to invert the condition. So that means is this triggers for all the other departments, or when an account is created for all the other departments. And now what I can do here is, because I have two different custom events, I can create two different notifications. So if I go to my notifications and I create a new one, I can say, okay, use the event create for the department in sales. So I can create a different email notification just only for sales or finance. And I can do this on all the fields that I have mapped and all the data that I have left from the account creation or something like that. So it is really powerful, because I can create two different templates, notifications, based on the data that I've sent back from my account create. Another nice option that we have with the custom events is on the update side. And let's say account update. And again, here I say for when department is changed. So what I can do here is I can say system avas, and I say account update, and I create a condition, and I can say here the condition is updated, and I can say here department. So this means is if the department is changed on the account, then this event is triggered. So if the department isn't changed, but there is an account update, we will not send a new notification. But if the account is updated and the department is updated within that account update, then this notification will be sent, or the notification that is connected to the custom events. It could be multiple, of course. But it's also really powerful, because I can also add something like contains again, and say department is sales, and again maybe finance as well. So now I can say, okay, I only send a notification on the account update when the department is updated and the new value is of sales or finance. And again, I can go back to my notifications. I can create a new notification and I can choose the event here when the department is changed. And here I can use all the variables available in my account creation and of course of the person. So I can create a different template for when my department is changed, but also only for sales and finance. So I can combine the conditions. The thing that you have to remind with the custom events, and even when I'm combining conditions, these conditions are always an AND. But inside the condition, like this, it's an OR. So that's really important to know. And I think it's also available here in the information. But I want to be sure that this is known and these are an AND. So that means the department is updated and the new value is sales and finance. Of course, you can also say, okay, I only want to send it when it's not updated, so like this. And it's the value of sales and finance. That's also an option, of course. You can also say, okay, I only want to send an email when the department is updated, but also, or not also, but the title needs to be updated as well. So only when the title and the department is updated. I don't think that's always the best practical use, because if your department is changed, most likely your function is going to change, but it could also be that the function is the same and then you will not get an email or a notification. And of course, we're only talking about email currently, but in the next couple of releases, we're going to introduce different systems for notifications where you can create a PowerShell notification system, which is really nice. Let me check if there are any answers on my question. And let's check if we can discuss this. I don't think there are any answers on my question. But I explained all the other features, so let me explain what happens. So if you create two rules with the same permission, and of course those are enforced, and with the first rule you say, okay, I want to unmanage them, and with the second rule you remove the permission and you say, okay, I want to revoke it, then the permission will be unmanaged. Because that's for us a more preferable situation, because if you have to choose between, hey, I'm going to remove something from the target system or not, I think not is the better situation, and preferably in the future we have some option where you can say, okay, I want to remove all the unmanaged stuff or CD all the unmanaged stuff, and then you can clean up the way like that your managed permissions. But if you do that in that order and you don't do an enforcement between you do a publish of the rules, then it will be unmanaged instead of revoked. Also, when you do the revoke as the last option, but it's just unmanaged is a little bit stronger in our opinion to do. And also don't forget that the unmanaged option you really have to select. So the default behavior is still a revoke, just as before. Also, if you are trying the new conditional notifications and you have any feedback, please send it to us. You can send it to support or of course the feedback portal, and we will look at it. And we are still improving a little bit on this part, and also on the PowerShell v2 target system with the new mapping. We received some feedback, and we are really trying to improve the stuff. So there will be some improvements on that are sent as feedback from our customers. So let me check one time if there are any questions. No, there aren't any. So then I would like to thank you for watching this webinar again. And if you never want to miss any new features available for HelloID, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you will get a notification when there's a new webinar or when there's release videos and all the other stuff. If you have any questions, you can just put it in the comments on this YouTube video, or contact support, or put your new or your feedback from the software on the feedback.helloid.com. If you want to see what's upcoming, you can go to the roadmap.helloid.com. And of course, we also have all the documentation available on docs.helloid.com. If you have any feedback on this webinar, you can also put it on the feedback.helloid.com, or maybe if you know my name or email address, you can send it to me directly, no problem. But thank you again for watching, and till the next time.